Something unexpected is going on among young people, according to Matt Walsh. Let's see what he has to say about it.
Many encouraging reports recently about the revival of religious fervor among young Americans. And Fox News just had a report on the subject. Let's watch that.
I don't think that's real, by the way. I think that that was made up or something. If somebody could verify that.
In the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit.
Okay, hold on.
Mass baptisms of hundreds of young people. Thousands.
I believe Fox News. Fox News reported on it, and I believe they're spaced out. Like, this is how many? This is like a single church congregation.
Come to raise hearts of joy in song.
That's a slightly bigger crowd.
There is a palpable spirit moving on college campuses, arenas, and megachurches. Younger generations gathering to worship, coming to faith as the new Fox Nation special.
This is not full. This is not full. Thousands? No. This is not very many. I'm sorry. No. This is not like a huge event for a university.
Reveals
there's spiritual hunger in Gen Z. Bible sales are booming. Things that you never thought would happen
Bible sales,
before.
are they?
It's a kind of worship that's different from their parents and grandparents.
This is a relationship with grace. And I think that's what young people resonate with today. This isn't achieving, it's receiving.
Okay, it's possible I'm wrong, but I don't believe Fox News on anything.
It's not trying to be good enough to earn God's love. God already
Passionate Christians cosplaying as rows of empty seats.
loves us.
Churches are reporting record numbers of young people filling pews, especially in the Catholic Church, while reports show social media is exploding with young faith influencers spreading a new
Tens of
approach to
people.
religion. Still, while Pew Research Center data shows religion is gaining influence in America and that Gen Z is
Catholicism in 2026. Our source, TikTok.
showing higher rates of religion.
We found this on TikTok. It must be true.
Researcher Ryan Burge isn't convinced there's an actual Great Awakening.
We're not seeing anything in the
But to their credit, I believe TikTok over Fox News.
data that even points close to the idea of a mass revival in America. For us to go from a 25% weekly attendance rate to a 35% weekly attendance rate means 35 million new people are going to be going to church this Sunday.
But for others, the numbers only tell part of the story.
This is a radical generation that believes that God is going to do great things.
But the data
Hold on, what was that last part? Hold on, I missed it a little bit. I'm sorry.
Ryan Burge isn't convinced there's an actual Great Awakening.
We're not seeing anything in the data that even points close to the idea of a mass revival in America. For us to go from
Okay, well, I believe him over your bullshit.
a 25% weekly attendance rate to a 35% weekly attendance rate means 35 million new people are going to be going to church this Sunday.
But for
I feel like that was taken out of context. I feel like he had a different point to make. That's why I was confused. Because they made that sound like he was actually agreeing that the attendance rate is going up. But I think he was saying, well, no, that would be a 35 million. I think he was saying that would be ridiculous.
others, the numbers only tell part of the story.
This is a radical generation that believes that God is going to do great things.
But the data
His vibes are all off. He's like Lex Luthor and Vin Diesel had like a devil child.
Generation that believes that God is going to do great things.
But the data does show that the number of Americans who say they are non-religious is declining.
In like the worst way, by the way. Vin Diesel is an attractive person, but like he has like the I don't know. It's a weird mix.
And many leaders say it's because young
Lizard Man.
generations are leading a new movement of faith.
Okay, people are gonna get upset at me if he doesn't look anything like either of those two. I'm sorry. It's just the bald head. Okay, that's all I was trying to say. Apparently, I'm face blind. Dubsy's told me this.
So the data here is a little bit conflicted, a little contradictory, because you have these kinds of reports, a lot of anecdotal evidence, not just anecdotal, but evidence of this resurgence of faith among younger people, evidence that younger people are more religious than their parents, which has never happened before. But then people on the other side of the argument will say that, well, the overall data, the national surveys do not show that religion is actually making a comeback. And instead what we're seeing are kind of pockets here and there where faith is on the uptick, but overall it isn't. Now, I'm biased, obviously, but and there might be some element of wishful thinking here, maybe, but anyone is susceptible to that. I believe that
Yes,
the
it's all
revival
wishful
is real.
thinking.
And
Cope.
and it's what I
Cope
see with
about
my
it.
own eyes.
You're literally admitting to coping about it. He's like, maybe it's cope,
And if it is
but
real,
it's
then
my
the
cope.
question is, whether it will be sustained. Young people are discovering or rediscovering Christianity, but where will they be? What will things look like 10 years from now, 20 years from now? What will their children believe? That's really the question, and we're not going to know until we get there. So here's what I think is happening. First of all, you find that conservative and more orthodox, reverent churches, traditional churches, especially for Catholics, are the churches that are getting younger and getting and larger, right?
Can you substantiate that? He might be right. I don't know, but I don't know that you can substantiate that.
And that tells me that what's happening is that partially the so-called cultural Christians, right?
He did do that, Big Jerry. I remember.
The priesters, the CEOs, the Christmas and Easter.
He did make some interesting content.
Christians don't really believe in the religion, but sort of participate for social reasons. Those people, over the past decade or two, have been dropping off. Have been.
Which people? Sorry.
Those people, over the so-called cultural Christians, right? The priesters, the CEOs, the Christmas and Easter only types.
Oh, gotcha.
Christians don't really believe in the religion.
Most Christians
sort of participate for social reasons. Those people, over the past decade or two.
I mean, they might believe, but they also might be like, well, I love God and God loves me, and I haven't done anything notably wrong this week. They're just like reasonable people who happen to believe in a God somewhere. Is it Christianity? I don't know, and who fucking cares? They call themselves Christians. They believe in the same God you do, from the same Bible. So I think it counts.
Have been dropping off. Have been leaving completely because it's perfectly socially acceptable these days.
He's so picky about it.
To be non-religious, to be atheist, or at least to just be non-religious. To just sort of like if somebody asks you what's your religion and you say, I don't know, whatever. And that's socially acceptable now in a way that it wasn't 40 years ago.
Yeah, he's saying he wants atheists to be persecuted again.
And so there's not as much of an incentive socially for people who don't really believe it to show up anyway and go to church.
You need to be threatened into it. My peaceful, peace-loving religion. We need to threaten you into it and make it unacceptable socially to say that you are anything else, because that's the way that things get done, is when we force you into it. That's how you know you're right, when you have to force somebody into something and a certain way of believing things.
And so they're not. The non-believing, fake social Christians are falling off. They're being separated like wheat from the chaff.
But what's your evidence?
That has left a core, that's left a kind of nucleus of believers who really believe, who really love the faith.
The
really
Nugety Center.
Are on fire with the faith. And the effect is it's made the church stronger. The dead weight is gone. The fakers, the pretenders, they're going away. And so it's basically addition by...
Don't worry, guys. People are leaving the church, yeah, but trust me, okay? It's good. And if you think about it, actually, it'll make us stronger, right? Please, let me twist this to be good.
Subtraction. So what I'm saying is, not that it's...
Addition by subtraction.
Not that it's
good.
A good thing. If you had 100
me,
people in church, you'd prefer that they're all there and excited and they're all true, real believers, but that wasn't happening. So if you have a church with 100 people, let's say, and 60 of them don't really believe and don't really care, and they're just sort of coming in on Christmas and it doesn't really matter to them, and they're only there for the social experience, treating church like a networking event or something, well, your church will be stronger without them.
They're
the problem
there.
Is when those people, especially when they reach a...
Come as you are, my ass, dude. He's not a Christian.
Critical mass. They're showing up. They're watering everything down, and because of they have more of a vote than the real believers because there's more of them and they're so loud.
You call yourself a follower of Christ, and you're like hemming and hawing and wagging your damn finger about like what people are. Like, they're at the church. They're participating in worship. What are you talking about? If they're there, I thought the whole problem was that they weren't there. Hold on.
Well, your church will be stronger with...
Church is a networking event. What are you talking about? It's absolutely a networking event. That's one of the best attributes of church. One of the only good ones, in fact, is that you get to meet people, right? And you get to socialize. I socialized all the time after Mass. We had a donut social. It was nice. Like, what's wrong with that? Grab a few donuts, donate a few bucks for the donuts, sit around a table, chat it up with some of the neighbors, whatever. Those parts of church I do like. Okay, I think that's great. But you're saying you don't like that part. You're saying no, that. It's got to be strict worship. Boy, Matt Walsh's world sure sounds fun.
Without them, because the problem is when those people, especially when they reach a critical mass, they're showing up, they're watering everything down, and because of they have more of a vote than the real believers because there's more of them and they're so loud, and so everything.
We need to sit in silence. No, you need to stand in silence for extended periods, and then you need to kneel. It's even worse than that.
Watered down. Now the church.
I hate kneeling in church. I hate it.
Service, the mass is being conducted in a way to appeal to those people who don't even really care in the first place, and it kind of waters everything down. It's better to not have them, right? Better to be hot or cold. Not
as famously taught by Jesus, who doth proclaim, it is simply better to not have some people in my church. Jesus Christ.
Not lukewarm, we're told in Scripture. And this
Probably.
Is why. It's better to have 40 real believers than to have 100 congregants where more than half of them are not real. Now, hopefully the fakers discover the true faith and come back.
How does he call himself a Christian? Like, this is so anti-Christian. I could vomit, and I'm not even a Christian anymore. But this is not the Christianity that I was taught. What I was taught, right, at least the good parts, were welcome all, come as you are, and I think that's good enough, you know? I like that message, that you are fine as you are in this place. I think that if every Christian could get on board with that part of Christianity and just abide by it, we'd live in a much, much better world. And there are Christians who do that. Come as you are. Gay, trans, you know, whatever else exists, black, you know, Asian, it doesn't matter. Like, whatever you're wearing, came in your pajamas, couldn't get up in time, whatever. You know, like, shit happens. Just come as you are. Doesn't matter. Maybe take a shower, but, you know, be respectful, but, you know, the idea I like.
You'd rather have 100 believers, real believers, than 40. But you don't want 60 non-believers who are pretending. That's what you don't want. You don't want 60 people there out of the 100 who are faking it, who are just pretending and are just
What do you mean by faking it?
For the social experience. That's what you don't want. That kills your church.
Oh, my God. That's what church is, a social experience. What are you talking about? Like, there was a time when the Christian church was the social experience. Everything was owned by the Christian church. And so, like, you know, the whole area was the church and ruled by the church. And so, like, you had to socialize, right? Like, their society, you know, was the church. Of course it's social.
Big church where more than half of them aren't real Christians is dead. A small church where everybody is real.
Come for the social experience.
That's a vibrant church, and it has a core now that can actually grow for real. And I think that's part of what's happening.
The delicious nougaty center of real Christians.
And then also this younger generation, they're the first generation to really grow up in essentially a post-Christian America. They're the first to grow up in a culture that is predominantly secular, non-religious. And so,
this is still a Christian nation, like, kind of, right? Like, I'm not saying that it was founded on Christianity or anything like that, but it's ruled by the Christians currently. Like, it has kind of been already. Like, there were a lot of privileges granted to Christians. Like, we have in God we trust on our money. One nation under God, right? The Christian God is what's implied there. You know, the Christians are the most likely to be elected, right? Atheists don't really get elected. I'm surprised a Muslim was able to get elected, honestly. Like, you know, Christians kind of run the game here.
It should tell us something that this...
We're not post-Christian. What are you talking about?
I grew up in the 90s, and it was a very heavily secularized culture then, but not like what someone born in, you know, the year 2000 even would have experienced. Not as bad as that. So now we've got this first generation or two of young people who grew up in this secularized culture, and they're rebelling against it. What does that tell you?
I will say it's more secular than it used to be, if that's what he means. But secular doesn't mean post-Christian.
It tells you that a non-religious
secularism is a sliding scale.
Society doesn't work. It just doesn't work. The young people, they grew up in secularism, which means they grew up on the idea that life has no inherent fundamental meaning. We're here for the blink of an eye.
I mean, that's kind of true, right? Like, even in the Christian worldview, that's kind of true. Because what's the meaning of life in the Christian worldview? It's to live for God, sure. But, like, at the end of the day, why does God have to exist? Oh, for no reason? He just does? Okay. Like, there's no reason he has to. So it always comes back to, there's no real reason for anything. It just kind of is the way it is, whether there's God or not.
We come from nothing. We're going back to nothing. Nothing that happens
You make
in
your own
between
meaning.
really matters. That's what they're taught.
Well, I don't think it doesn't matter. And I wasn't taught that, by the way. I wasn't taught any of these things.
Back to nothing. Nothing that happens in between really matters. That's what they're taught. Well, guess what? You can't live that way. That's pure.
I am younger than Matt Walsh, and I had a Christian upbringing. So, like, you know, it does still exist.
Pure misery. That's nihilism. That's despair. I mean, what's the point of anything? It's not workable. It's not livable. And
Why not?
if that
Wait, what's not?
well, guess what? You
But, like, that's not what they're taught to begin with. So, whatever.
can't live that way.
People aren't being taught
That's
that.
pure misery. That's nihilism. That's despair. I mean, what's the point of anything? It's not workable. It's not livable. And if that
You don't understand he's under attack for his Christianity. That's pretty true. Fundamentalists are terrified of secularism because it means they can't indoctrinate children. They are fighting tooth and nail to keep their public funding for religious schools in Quebec. Well, yeah, I mean, you know, it all comes back to being able to control them.
if the claim of secularism is true, if atheism is true, then the more honest, more rational conclusion is like anti-natalism, right? I mean, the anti-natalists.
No, it's not. No. You can, as an atheist, you can come to a dare I say, pro-life, I guess, for lack of better terms, a pro-natalist, celebrating humanity stance. You can. You know, you can look around and say this world is beautiful. Okay, let me ask you this. What reason does a painting have to exist? There's a philosophical question. Does a painting really have a reason to exist? Or is it just there for our amusement? You know, like at the end of the day, it doesn't need to. We could live without the painting, you know, it would, but life would be a little bit dimmer. And like, so I think of reality like a painting. Is there any point to it? Ultimately, no. It's just a painting on a canvas. But you know, there's meaning there. There's still meaning. Like, I don't know. I feel like that's a pretty decent way of looking at the universe, right? As a painting. Humanism is the base standard. All other standards borrow form from humanism. Yeah. And I don't have to believe in God to believe that, like, the universe is kind of like a painting. That's kind of how, like, I personally believe in some kind of base consciousness of the universe, which is a little far out there, but, if you think about it, like, I don't think that, like, I'm getting way into the weeds here, sorry. But I don't think that, like, consciousness would spring from, like, completely consciousness-less matter. So I'm not saying that rocks are conscious, but I am saying that the elements for consciousness exist within rocks. They have to. So that's what I believe. And I don't have to come to a conclusion that God is real in order to believe that.
Are bleak. It's a bleak and depressing.
I'm still kind of an atheist.
Worldview, but it's honest, because if it's true that there is no God and therefore life has no meaning, then there's no reason to live. Like, actually, life.
Why do you need a daddy to look up to in order to have meaning in your life? That's so, like, that's the depressing thing, is, like, you need an authority figure standing over you, telling you what to do in order to have meaning in your life. That's depressing as
becomes this cruel joke. And yeah, to have more kids and have them born into this, it's like a life of misery and suffering. You come from nothing, and your life has no meaning, and there's no reason that you're here. It's all an accident. And you're going to go back into nothingness and just, like, decay back into nothingness in eternity.
I have never heard anybody teach their children this, whether they're atheists or not. Like, the atheists that I speak to on a regular basis do not sound like this. You know, they're not, like, all doom and gloom about it. Some of them do believe that we disappear into nothing. And there's no reason not to believe that, because once my body is, you know, once my body ceases to function, my brain, I should say, right? Whatever constitutes my consciousness, once it stops, I'm gone. Alec Gunter's no more. And that will happen one day. It'll happen to all of us. But that doesn't mean that the time we spend here is pointless. You know, it's an experience. Nothing can last forever. Otherwise, it's not an experience. It's just a constant. And constants are boring. You ever taken physics? It's boring as But jokes aside, I fail to see why you need some ultimate ruler of the universe giving you meaning. And I would also ask, what does that mean God's meaning is in life, right? Like, just to make us, but why? Like, that's circular reasoning. I'm just saying.
Of nothingness, and that's what you're heading for, and you know it. I mean, that's the cruel joke of it, is that unlike the other animals, we are aware of that, and we're aware that all this pain and suffering we're going through really has no meaning. It doesn't matter. And if that's the case, then life is like, why even live?
I think he's like legitimately scared of what would happen if he weren't to believe in God. Like, he sounds like he's scared of it. You know what I mean? Which fits Matt Walsh. He's a pussy, so, you know.
Why propagate the species? Why spread human civilization? Why keep it going? There's no reason for any of it.
I disagree. It's a beautiful
so the most
experience.
logical conclusion is, well, we shouldn't. You know, just let humanity die off, and none of it matters.
Why?
Anyway. It's totally pointless.
No, the neutral decision would just be like, live your life as happily as you can. That's the neutral decision, not necessarily in a good way, not necessarily in a bad way. The neutral decision would just be to kind of drift through life, not like let everything die off. Like, this is silly.
Pointless. And let's just embrace nothingness, embrace the abyss.
Eventually,
so
everybody has to.
That is the logical conclusion of it. And I think we got a lot of young people who've kind of noticed that, and they've looked at that and said, well, that's not right. I can't live that way. You can't have a society.
Here's the way I look at it, right? The universe gave birth to me, and that means that the particles that comprise me right now, that make me a conscious entity, existed somewhere before I did, right? And that's what I'll be afterwards, stardust, okay? And if I'm anything after that, if somehow this version of myself, which, I don't know, like this conscious construct that exists within me, gets shoved into something else somehow, or particles of it do, whatever my experience ends up being, whatever experience entails for dead matter, you know, I trust the universe to not do me dirty. Okay? Because it hasn't done me dirty. Like, I don't remember pain or suffering before my life started, so I'm surely not going to have any after. That's the way I look at it. And I think that's a beautiful, fine way to look at the universe, and I don't need a God for that.
That runs that way. It's absurd. I mean, you've made life itself as an absurdity. It's an absurd, depressing, miserable, horrible,
I disagree.
Dark
Did what
thing.
I say sound absurd, depressing?
And I think you got young people who are rebelling against that, kind of inevitably. I mean, there's a reason why there's never really been a fully atheist society that survived for very long anyway. You can't live that way. Nobody can.
I don't know the truth of that.
A society, a culture can't function, can't thrive, certainly can't exist for very long.
I just don't think that it's happened yet, because because science is a very recent innovation well, I shouldn't say that. Scientific advancements have increased to such a pace in recent human times that the belief in God to explain things that we cannot explain is slowly dwindling. That's why there's never really been an atheist society to speak of. Because how else do you explain the world if not for gods or science, right? You need a way to explain it. That's our impulse as humans. And so all societies kind of came up with their own religion. And I think there's some beauty to that. You know, people want to know what happened, how we're here. And I think that's beautiful. But the curiosity kept us learning and learning and learning. And eventually we outgrew them. We outgrew the gods. Okay. We don't need them. And I think I demonstrate that perfectly fine. My life's fine. Things are going okay. You know, like maybe not in the world, but in my personal life, they're all right. So, you know, I don't need a God for any of that.
Because of that absurdity. Life without God is an absurdity. It's a grotesque absurdity. And who can live a grotesquely absurd life? So I think young people are rebelling against that. They're rebelling against the meaninglessness by finding meaning. They're determined to live.
Well, there is a sense of meaninglessness in young people, but I guarantee you that a lot of them are also Christians. In fact, probably most of them are, because, I don't know about per capita, but just by sheer numbers, most of them are probably Christians. Yeah, of course there's hopelessness, but that's not because of lack of religion. That's from lack of money, like spending money for things that aren't rent and groceries and gas prices and all this shit that keeps going up without our pay going up. That's where the hopelessness comes from, Matt. Capitalism. It always goes back to that, doesn't it? I fear Matt Walsh is the grotesque absurdity. I fear you might be right. He's got like 10 seconds left.
Live with meaning, and you can only have meaning and live with meaning if you have faith. There's no other way. There's no other place to find it, right?
I disagree. I find meaning perfectly fine in my life. I don't need somebody above me telling me what to do in order to find that. And also, the title's a lie. Or like the concept here is a lie. Like there's not this new revival. Even Matt Walsh had to be like, well, maybe I'm just huffing copium here. Like, yeah, you are. It's not real. So it's just a lie. Sorry, you're coping. You're coping hardcore, Matt.
Hi, thanks so much for watching and making it to the end of the video. I just wanted to let you all know that I love and appreciate everybody in my community, whether you can support me financially or just by liking, commenting, and sharing my videos. It helps way more than you know. That being said, I do want to give a very special thanks to my tier 4 subs, which would be Space Timid and Hot Take Andy. And thanks so much to my monetary subscribers from any of the tiered subs or anybody who gives me money in any form, including going to my Patreon shop, donating money to me directly. It all helps way more than you know. If you do decide to help me financially, you can get some really cool perks like early access to content, exclusive access to censored videos, also some really cool badges next to your name. Even if you can't afford a monetary subscription, just watching, sharing, and commenting on my content helps way more than you know. Thanks again, and I will see you all in the next video.